I have had these bearded irises growing here for many years, but lately I have noticed that they are not blooming that well. There are probably 15 plants here, but in late spring or early summer, probably only 3 or 4 plants will bloom. Hi, this is Ruchi, and let's talk about the reasons the irises don't bloom. So there are many reasons that irises may not be blooming, but the most prevalent reason is that they are not getting enough sunlight. For most of the flowers, they need a lot of sunlight, only then they bloom. But then you may say that, a few years ago they were blooming fine and it's the same location. So what happened now? Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe, there is a tree nearby which grew taller in last few years and it's preventing the sunlight to shine on these plants. So maybe that is something you can check on. Now, if that's the case, you can either trim down the tree a little bit so that the sun is coming here in spring and summer, or maybe you want to transplant them somewhere else. The second most prevalent reason is that the irises may be too crowded. So when you planted it 2, 3, 5 years ago, maybe there were a few rhizomes and they were properly spaced 1 foot apart and things like that. But over the years they grew and they started producing side shoots. Now out of those 3, 4 plants, you have 15 plants. So the space is limited and all these 15 plants are growing there competing for natural resources. And that may prevent them from blooming because they are not getting enough nutrition. So in this situation, the best remedy is that you dig them up, maybe divide the rhizomes and plant some of those back there and some other you can plant somewhere else and give them enough space. The third reason could be the depth of the rhizomes. These like to be shallow planted. So when you have planted them, rhizomes should be little bit visible on the top. If they are buried too deep, they may produce foliage, but they may not produce enough flowers. Maybe you added more compost and things like that and the rhizomes got buried. But that could be another reason. The fourth reason could be that irises or the rhizomes may not be getting enough water. Now, these are drought tolerant plants, but if you don't give them enough water to survive, they will stop producing flowers because they need to survive and flowers require a lot of water. So that could be another reason. So you should check, maybe poke your finger in the soil, and if it is too dry, let's say 1 or 2 inches deep, then you may want to water them more. But you also have to remember that if you water them too much, the rhizomes may rot. So you have to be really careful. First of all, they shouldn't be planted in a place where the water collects because then rhizomes will rot. And then if you overwater them, then also the rhizomes may rot. So you have to maintain a good balance. The fifth reason could be that you have been fertilizing these plants with nitrogen-rich fertilizer. Now you need to give them fertilizer, but nitrogen-rich fertilizer produces more foliage. For blooms, you need to give it phosphorus-rich fertilizer. So in spring, maybe fertilize it once a month, and after the blooms, when they fade away, you cut away the blooms and start fertilizing them maybe once every 2 weeks till fall. Then the last reason that I can think of is that maybe rhizomes are too old, they have become weak, maybe they are rotting, or they just don't have energy to produce the blooms. Some decay is normal, that happens naturally, but it is possible that rhizomes are looking good, but they still don't have the energy. And one reason could be that after it has bloomed, you not only cut the flower stalk, you also cut the foliage away. then there are no leaves to produce energy which can be saved by the rhizomes. And next season they'll not produce blooms because they did not store energy in the last season. So whenever the flowers fade away, you should cut away the flower stalk, but leave the foliage on. Foliage is producing energy for the plant, and that's going into the rhizomes. It is getting stored for the next season. And why do you want to cut the flower stalk? Because if you don't cut it, all the energy of the plant or the rhizome will go in producing the seeds. And you don't want that. You want the energy to be stored in the rhizome for the next season. And you may say that, okay, seeds are good, if seeds are produced, then I can propagate them using seeds. But growing these plants from seeds is fine, but it will take few years for them to produce flowers. So you don't want to propagate them using seeds. It's better if you propagate them by dividing the rhizomes. That way, even the next season you'll be able to get blooms on those plants that you just divided last year. So those are all the reasons that I can think of. So let's see what's going on here now. I can see that there are some plants that are very close to each other, like this and this and this, and new plants are growing from here. So maybe they are overcrowded. Here, it's fine. I think here also it's fine. It's the same thing here. Only one side has soil, the other side has the driveway, and there are too many plants here. So that's why maybe they are not getting enough nutrition. It also feels a little dry to me. I'm digging it up, and though I have water irrigation set up, it all feels too dry to me. So maybe that is another reason that they are not blooming well. And I'll be honest, I have not fertilized them enough in last couple of years. So that could be the third reason. So in any case, what happens is that since these plants, at least this side and this side, even if they bloom, the flower stalk grows tall and then it flops on the driveway because of the weight, and there is no soil holding them back. So I want to transplant at least few of these, and let's see, if I have space, then I'll transplant the front ones too. So let's do that. Okay, so this whole clump has come out. The roots look pretty healthy to me, but yes, if you look at it, it's pretty crowded, and there are many plants in that small area. Look at this. So from this rhizome, there's only one plant growing, but it's pretty healthy otherwise. So I'm going to just slowly separate them out. There's one rhizome here. Now if you look at it, there's an offshoot growing here. So you can separate it out. So there's a small plant growing here, and there are some roots. So that's good. This must have been the original rhizome, and from there this eye grew and it's growing well, and another eye is growing here, but I don't want to separate this one out for now. From this rhizome, this is slightly separate, so I can just separate it out. And this one is fine, it's growing nicely. Just break them apart and you saw that they are pretty shallow. That's how they should be. You could almost see all the rhizomes on the top. So there's another one. See, probably this was the original rhizome from which all these shoots grew. So again, you can separate these out, and they're separating all by themselves. I'm just kind of pushing them and they're coming out. Same thing here. I could cut these eyes out and plant them separately, but they are too young, so I'll just leave them for now. So here, now we have separated all these. So in that one clump, there are so many plants growing. And if I really wanted to separate them, I could separate all these small eyes too, and there'll be probably 15 plants just in this clump. So now let's transplant them. So here, just next to it, but it is slightly inland from the driveway. Driveway is here, and it's about 12 inches inland, so that they get the support of the soil and they don't flop on the driveway. So I have dug it up about 8 to 10 inches deep. I added some compost to it, and now we can plant these rhizomes. So the way you want to plant them is that this rhizome should be visible after you put the soil, but the roots, all these roots should go inside. So you want to make, let's say, a mound of soil, and then put it on top of it, and then cover it with soil like this. Of course, I'm going to put more soil around it, but this part will be visible. Rest everything goes under the soil. And you want to make sure that the roots are not all squished together. You want them to spread out a little bit, and just maybe 6 to 8 inches apart you can plant all these. Another thing is that what should be the direction of these plants. So if you look at this, the leaves are fan shaped, so these are in one plane, and if you look from this side, they appear like a line, and on this side they are spread in a fan shape. Most of the times I'll be looking at them from the driveway, so I would like to see the fan from the driveway instead of just a line like this. So I'm going to plant them like this. So you can see that we have spaced the plants. We have made sure that they have their rhizomes visible on the top, and it is possible that the dirt will settle down, and I will add more dirt if required. And the third thing is that they are a little bit far away from the driveway as compared to these in the front. They don't get soil on one end. So I had thought that all of these will come in that area, but clearly not. So I'm going to plant these somewhere else. So we have dug up the rhizomes, we have transplanted them, watered them. I'm going to make sure that they stay hydrated for next few days at least, so that they survive, and hopefully they'll do better in the next season. So I already did this whole process in my backyard too. We had this patch where these bearded irises, yellow ones, were growing, and the foliage will start to show up in early spring. and the whole summer will pass and not a single bloom will come. And I was thinking the same thing, what's wrong with these? They get a lot of sun, they were spaced apart, and then I realized that it is on a slope, so maybe they are not getting enough water. Whatever water I am giving, it is basically running away. So I found a different location under my loquat tree. So I dug up all those irises and put them under the loquat tree where they get filtered sunlight, not too much sun. And I put the drip irrigation system, and it was leveled, so there was no chance of water running away. I did this in late summer, and in next spring they started growing beautifully, and every single plant had a flower stalk. So earlier not even a single bloom came, and this year every single plant had a flower. So it was so gratifying. So basically in the older location, they're not getting enough water for the amount of sun they were getting. And also because it was exposed in an open area in winter, they used to die completely, at least the foliage, because of the frost. Now under the loquat tree, even in winters they did not die, because there was enough vegetation around it to keep it warm, and it just worked out beautifully. So I'm hoping the same thing will happen here. I'm trying to recreate the history here. So maybe I'll prepare another video in which I'll show you what happened to these plants. So I hope this video was informational to you. If you have any questions, leave me a comment and I'll try to answer as soon as possible. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share it with your friends and family. And I'll see you next time. Happy gardening. Bye.